Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 791. I'm Tom Cagley, your host. Today, we complete year 17 with our interview with Vinnie GIl. Vinnie and I talked about conferences and staying connected with the Agile community. One of the topics we covered was the value of conferences and meetups to the community and individuals. A great way to complete year 17. Vinnie's bio. Vinnie puts people and culture first. She enjoys connecting with people and companies to find their purpose, walking alongside them in their organizational growth journey. Her passion is influencing change at the enterprise level to help bring about wide-ranging agile organizational transformation. Vinnie has vast industry and deep business experience, mining, engineering, retail, financial services, public sector, education, travel, automotive, just to name a few. She has over 20 years in the project space and previously held roles in project management. She even likes developers. Says so right here on the podcast. She's deeply involved in the Agile community and volunteers her time with the Business Agility Institute, in addition to being a member of the International Consortium for Agile. For those of you who don't know, Mastering Work Intake by Tom Cagley and Jeremy Willits has published. Have you purchased your copy? Link in the show notes, by the way. Doing the right work at the right time can make or break your project, and surprisingly, there are a few resources to show how to manage this process effectively. No longer. Mastering Work Intake, from chaos to predictable delivery, focuses on the full pipeline that work follows as it enters and exits your organization, including the different types of work that enter at different levels and different times. We look forward to you reading the book, enjoying the book, getting value from the book, and letting us know what you think. Are you ready to talk community? It's time for the conversation. Vinnie GIl, welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast.
Hi, Tom. Thank you for having me. Lovely to see you again.
You know, it is fun. I think we ran into each other the first time as we both participated in the Agile Coaching Code of Ethics or Agile Coaching Code of Ethical Behavior. Too darn many words in that initiative with the Agile Alliance. Today I'd like to, better yet, why don't we start with, to be a decent coach, I'd like to suggest that you have to stay connected to the Agile community. How do you stay connected to the Agile community?
Well, Tom, I have to be honest. I have been in the industry for roughly about 12 years. And I guess the large chunk of my time being an being an Agilist, because I started off in product and then Scrum Master, and here I am now. I was not involved in the community. I only started to be active in the community in the last 3 years. I did attend meetups, but not very active. I was not aware there was a community. And then when I was aware there was a meetup community, I was quite shy. So I used to attend the meetup and then listen to stuff. And then I used to head back home. And those were the days where they had in-person meetups.
I've heard of those.
Yes. And I was also unaware of conferences and coach camps and also the initiatives that you and I are part of, like our lovely ethics committee. So does that answer your question?
Yeah. So you've been involved for the last 3 years. Is there a difference, do you think, between the first few years and the last 3 in terms of the value that you deliver to clients?
Yes, there is a huge difference. And even before I deliver the value to clients, I'd like to talk about the value that I bring to myself and my evolution as a person. I've come a lot out of my shell. 3 years ago, I wouldn't even have a LinkedIn photo because I would be too afraid to put a photo of myself out there. And just the fact that I am connected with people all over the world, I'm able to stay abreast of the trends, support the initiatives. And the value to my clients is, some of the values I've shown is, when on clients, they usually like to hear from speakers, and they because sometimes it's important to bring outside voices as well, right? Because who wants to hear from me? They hear from me almost every single day. And there are other people out there that are experts in different topics, and it's nice to hear their viewpoint. So I'm able to bring that power of my network to the client and connect them to the people that they may need, because I may not be everybody's cup of tea. I can't do everything, but I'm definitely somebody's shot of whiskey.
Interesting metaphors. Why did you immediately jump to your evolution as a person versus the value to clients?
Because it is important that I start with myself first. That's what I always believe. So if I start with myself and I explore myself and I have that confidence, and then in turn I'm able to then convert that to how I show up to my clients.
Since you started getting involved 3 years ago, is that a new perspective?
When I heard about these initiatives, about the community, about conferences, and I heard from a few people about how great it is and how fun our lovely community is, I felt a bit left out. I felt that I wanted to do more. I wanted to contribute from a viewpoint and stance of, diversity. I also know that talking about things is easy, but putting in the work and doing the work, and Tom, our ethics initiative is all volunteer work. So to actually do the work, that speaks a lot.
Yeah, the whole idea of volunteers, before we get down that path, I'll be honest with you, I am a tad bit of an introvert. I mean, that may sound Looney Tunes, given that I put myself out there on the podcast and things like that, but I am an introvert. It's hard for me to connect with people. And so therefore, this whole idea of getting involved is hard. And especially, everybody knows each other. So how did you get involved?
I actually got involved because I had a mentor. And my mentor at that time, because I believe every single Agile coach should have a coach. If we're coaching other people, we should be open to receiving feedback and looking at our blind spots, and sometimes, telling us when we're not doing so great. So my mentor is very into the conference scenes and started to give me the confidence and helped me put together my first talk, because I did have a lot of things to say. I did have a lot of things to share. And I believe that I deserved a voice and a space out there. So very slowly, a bit of hand holding, getting me confident until I'm still evolving and I'm still growing, but here I am now. And the other way I got involved is I took Antoinette Coetzee, a big shout out to her in South Africa. I took one of her courses, and she got me excited about the Business Agility Institute and the DEI initiative at that time. This was about 3 years ago. So I contacted Evan Laybourne, and then I got involved with volunteering with the Business Agility Institute. And this year I was in New York for their conference.
Oh, wicked. So volunteering as a way to get involved. There are a lot of people involved in Agile, and that number may be going up or down depending on, the whole market perhaps. But there are a lot of people that go to conferences and are members of the Agile Alliance and member of, the Scrum.x, whatever. There are so many different organizations there. Very few people get involved. Why?
It's time consuming. You have to be committed. And sometimes people prioritize things. So this certain initiatives might be you're laughing there. Yeah. Certain initiatives might be a priority for some people. Certain initiatives might not be a priority for someone. So people might feel a lot more passionate about certain initiatives, right? I guess that's just where you want. And you need, like, volunteering does take a lot of time. And I know different people, they have different lifestyles, different families, it does play a part, because work does take a chunk of our time.
I agree. I agree very wholeheartedly. Having been involved in a number of organizations, associations over the years, where the majority of the work was done by volunteers, it tended to be done by the same volunteers. My wife was, at least in this area, the head of the Ohio, or the Northeast Ohio National Organization of Women Business Owners for a period of time. And they had a study that basically said a volunteer lasts about 3 years before they burn out and go away. Is that part of the issue, that there's only so many volunteers and they then burn out and go away? Or do you really see the bigger problem as the fact that people don't know how to get involved? I
probably think it's both. And there's probably other reasons as well. A lot of people don't know how to get involved. A lot of people don't know that, there are all these things out there for Agile people, like myself included at the beginning. I didn't know there was like this whole other big world, Agilists out there connecting and, having fun. And so with that, I actually have this banter series with the LinkedIn Lives that I actually do during conferences. And it's just to give people a feel what a conference could be and feel like. And it's been quite successful. Did it in Agile Prague, did it in Agile as well, the Scotland hub for that. I also feel that with volunteering, it's, even though we are volunteering, we do like a bit of gratitude, a bit of thanks. We'd like to be looked after as well. It's a team. So just like any other team, a team of volunteers would also experience the same issues with the teams that we coach.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is a astute observation. Speaking of Agile 23, you presented at the Scotland hub. I was at the main hub, or whatever you want to call it, down in Florida. What was it like to be involved much more directly than I was at the time in a hybrid conference with multiple locations, some of them being perceived as virtual, even though you really weren't virtual? You were having a conference in Scotland at the same time, and we were sharing the airwaves kind of thing. What was that like?
I have to say, I was a few chosen ones to actually be in Scotland, have it beamed to Orlando. And I know there was a very small number, I think it was 2 or 3 people that were from Orlando being beamed back. And it was an absolute honor to be chosen. It was extremely seamless how the tech worked and how I was in person in Scotland and how everybody was in Orlando, and I saw a reasonably full room. But what really made me excited was knowing that my friends, both in Edinburgh and who were in Orlando, actually showed up for me. Like the morning of it, I got like really nice text messages from Nadia, who we volunteered on the BAI in New York. My friend Kev John and Alex and Sally were also there, and they helped me co-facilitate. And because we'd worked together for a very long time, I didn't need to give any pep talk or, how we're going to facilitate is. We did not plan at all. All I said is, would you help me facilitate? And Sally went, oh my God, it's 9 a.m. I'm not getting up for anybody, but I'll do it for you. She doesn't even. So Sally slowly was up there, and I was nervous, and I think it's good that you're nervous because it shows that you actually care, right? This means something for you. And being back home in my country, I felt really proud to be able to do something like that, to be chosen. And And I know the one message that Kev John sent me, he said, everybody wants you to succeed. Everybody wants you to do well. And this was a very strange feeling, because I'd done the talk a few times. I'd made slight adjustments for the conference, for Agile, and it's a talk that keeps growing because I collect data, and as the data grows, the drama grows as well. Mm-hmm. I was thrilled, and the feedback was unanimously positive. And a lot of the feedback was how well it worked, going back and forth. Now, if I put myself out of the equation, if you ask, how did we work seamlessly? It was through the LinkedIn Lives. I had a couple of LinkedIn Lives that I did from Scotland. These were being watched by the people in Orlando, especially for, we were recording messages. Me and Lisa Atkins were calling out our friends in Orlando, and our track chair as well, Emma, and then the track chair Seb for Scotland. We had the Kaylee, which we did a 15-minute LinkedIn Live because we wanted to show Orlando what we were doing. So for the benefit of people, Kaylee is Scottish dancing that we had.
I've heard of that.
It's really fun.
These, since we're talking about communities and how that's an important part of, I think, the overall Agile movement, but I think as you correctly pointed out, it's about how we stay current and evolve with these hybrid scenarios where, if you haven't participated in one, you probably will, a virtual conference where you're sitting in your office like you are right now, and everybody else is around the world, and there is no human interaction truly, right, other than Q&A and that kind of stuff. How can that actually replace this touching and feeling and being, and I don't want this to sound weird, having more intimate conversations with people? Or can it?
This is a really, really good question, because you got me there, Tom. You got me thinking. And this is what I think. And I'm primarily a remote worker. And I like that. And I think I'm quicker and faster. And I don't need to get up and queue for public transport and be squished there. Conferences are very different. And I've always said, don't force people. Don't just say, come to the office, come to the work. It's better for who. If it's better for you, doesn't mean it's better for somebody else. So I feel conferences that actually give people the option. If you want to come in person, great. If you can fly, great. If you can't, you can watch it online as well. One of the things we forget to actually look at is actually the cost of actually going to a conference, especially if you're flying to America. For somebody like me, there's the planes, there's travel, there's the visa as well. I need an online ESTA visa. I think it lasts for 10 years, but it's still a cost. This needs to be factored into. But onto that, I suppose, are conferences selling tickets? Are there too many conferences out there now that everything is available on conference website or YouTube? How do conferences need to evolve? If you ask me, I'm starting to really enjoy coach camps as well, right?
How could you do a coach camp virtually?
I think that would be really, really difficult, right?
I don't think the communication happens. And I don't know that I'm abnormal. I have a relatively decent attention span. But if I'm sitting in my office going to a conference for 8 hours in a day with a quick lunch break, I don't know that I'm actually going to pay attention. I might get some of the ideas, and that's okay. How do I get that conversation in the hallway or running into somebody that I haven't seen in 3 years and getting an idea? I don't know that virtual actually has the same oomph that getting together in real life does.
Perhaps. And I feel the same as well. Like I would love to see my friends in person and, give them a big bear hug. But I guess for some people, they're completely fine being at home. Maybe they live really far. Maybe transport is difficult. I think choice is really important, and respecting the need for that people are different and want different things and have different motivations for going to conferences. That's the key thing, right? It's okay if this is not for you. It's okay.
Let's get back to volunteering then. Those people who are remote and have chosen not to interact, are they going to volunteer and become part of the community?
I would say so. When I started to be active, I was in lockdown. I was actually it was touted as one of the world's harshest lockdown. Not only was I in Australia, I was in the state of Western Australia. We were one of the last people to open our borders. And that sense of volunteering actually gave me something to do during those lockdown times. So I am very grateful for getting to know the community at that point.
I understand, and I hear you. I just don't know if we can take those scenarios that are very definitely extraordinary in nature. They're not what I would suggest are systemic, and make inferences from that. My problem with a lot of stuff, especially in the softer sciences, is that there is no data. It's sort of like, the idea, and I've been actually looking for hard academic data on trying to validate the ideas in the book, Teaching from the Back of the Room. I also have been looking for information on virtual classes as to whether or not they have any veracity, right? Or, people actually retain the information. And again, I get a lot of marketing glitz, but there is no hard data. And that's the problem, right? So we're making inferences from individual thoughts and individual, opinions, and I don't know that it works. So that's what concerns me about the industry. You are young enough that you probably have not.
I just have good genes, Tom.
Well, I have Levi's, but and they're pretty good. I like them. Over my career, there have been a number of different movements within our profession, and Agile is just the current one. The question is, have any of them truly changed the trajectory of the industry? And I don't know. And how would we prove that?
I guess we just have to wait and see, right? Sometimes you do something now, you'll find out about it a few years later.
Or many years later. I agree. So did the case movement actually have any dramatic impact? Did the quality movement of the 80s really have, and 90s, have any dramatic? Did the CMMI movement, which swept the world in the 90s and early aughts? And then as Agile, have we fundamentally changed the trajectory of what we do?
Maybe we have, right? Because
maybe
as Agile, we need to accept that things are going to change. We change, we evolve as well. We don't know. And now, there's this movement to say that Agile needs to be reimagined. I agree.
Do we reimagine it as, command and control?
I have no idea what angle, wants to be imagined or what angle needs to be reimagined. But I guess there's a lot of questions out there or definitions out there as to what is Agile and what is not Agile. And you've seen, a huge push in terms of frameworks, certificates, and a lot of it's marketing, right? Who markets the best gets the best. Who shouts the loudest on LinkedIn gets the best. The more controversial you are, the better it is, right?
Have we gone a little crazy with the certificates and the certification and, different organizations?
I think we have.
What's the impact?
I don't for one doubt that learning is not important.
Oh, no.
I'm an IC Agile trainer as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's how you want to use it and what happens next. I guess the issue that we're still having is employers, people, leaders, they are still not very clear on what Agile is or, what makes a good Agilist. If you go by, a prerequisite of a 2-day course as a certificate, as a checkbox.
I'm sorry. I'm laughing because I've seen people go off and get a 2-day certificate over a weekend, and suddenly they are an Agile coach.
Step 1, change LinkedIn. So this is where, me and my friend Luca Minudel were actually creating something that was bursting Agile's bubble. And in our talk or the paper that we're putting together, we raise a really good point that says, would you fly in a plane with a pilot that's done 2-day certificate? Would you let a doctor operate you? They've only had 2-day training. We were discussing this back and forth, and then that's where it went to, and it's definitely stuck with me.
So the obvious knee-jerk reaction is no. But I'm a firm believer in challenging very closely held beliefs, and that's where learning occurs. In what circumstance would you let someone operate on you if they had just a 2-day certificate?
I don't know, Tom. It depends on the injury, right?
So yes, it does. It's contextual.
Exactly. But then would you trust your people, who is, your largest asset? Like if any company is like the largest sum goes to like paying salaries, these are your people. So would you trust your people and your organization with somebody that's had a 2-day certificate? It's like knowledge does not prove competence. It is important. Learning is extremely important. I'm a firm believer of that. But it's the mushrooming of as you aptly pointed out.
I think somebody's called this the Agile Industrial Complex.
AIC, yes.
There are people that I consider, really intelligent and sort of interesting, people like Carl Scotland, who believe that there should be an absolute fracturing. You should have as many branded versions of Kanban as there are atoms in the universe. That's hyperbole, obviously. That balkanization, that, siloing of knowledge, I think, makes it hard. So I think all of these certificates have a body of knowledge, and they all differ. I mean, what the heck? Words are different for the same thing. That thing that you do at the beginning of the day, every day at the beginning of a day in Agile, what do you call it?
I don't know. What do you call it, Tom?
I guess it depends, right? If I'm being a scrum-fundamentalist, I'd call it a daily scrum. If I was being a Kanban-fundamentalist, I would call it a daily stand-up. If I were back in the early 2000s when I first got involved in Agile, I think I'd just call it a stand-up. But now I don't think there's anybody in the world that actually stands up. But that's neither here nor there.
I mean, a think is a much nicer word. Look, you need to know your basics, right?
Absolutely.
It's a shuhari. You absolutely need to know your basics. You need to know it well, and that makes you a good coach. Because when you know your basics and it's strong, you're able to pull from different places and leverage best practices. I just had a podcast recorded with Renee, who is also on the Agile Alliance Ethics with us, and we actually Pilates basics with Agile basics. But this really reminds me
of... Was this a video podcast?
No. It's just a recording and it's coming out soon. What was I? Oh, Tom, you kind of threw me off. So what was I going to say? Okay, so as an Agilist, right, I am reminded by my first coach. And I asked him for help to edit my CV many, many years ago. And he basically came up with a load of additions all about terminologies that are not correct, whether it's teams or squads or stand-ups or scrum. And he said, if you're doing this, it's this. If you're doing this, it's that. And he said, look, Vinnie, fundamentally it boils down to what kind of agilist you want to be. And that really stuck to me. What kind of agilist do you want to be? And yeah, his name is Simon Reason, and I'm forever grateful to him, because it doesn't matter what language other people use, but it matters what language I use. I don't go around correcting people. I would like to be corrected if I use the wrong terms, but it matters what language I use. So if it is Scrum, I will say events. I will say daily Scrum. If it's Kanban, I will try and use the correct language, because I do believe that words have meanings. Last week, I was sitting with a bunch of friends. They were developers, and they started talking about Agile. Yeah, I know. I do have friends who are developers, and they're pretty cool. And we were sitting in a wine tasting. You see, we're even cooler, Tom. We were at a wine tasting event, and one of the developers was actually trying to explain to somebody, and he said, "Oh, we have these." And there's somebody that doesn't know anything about Agile, and the developer goes, "We have these things called ceremonies." And immediately, the guy that was listening, he was a teacher. Exactly, he did exactly that. He did exactly that, and as a listener, he was like, "This sounds like a cult. It sounds like a religion." And this is why using language is really important, right? It's a collaborative event. Work is supposed to happen during that. So
what kind of agilist are you?
I'm the kind of agilist that tries, and I get up every day and I try to fully make things a bit better for everybody. And if I'm not able to make anything better, I hope to be there and just to listen to them. I try to be better myself. It's not like I'm coaching people. I feel like we are coaching each other. I learn a lot from the people that I work with. And some days, it's not great days. Some weeks are not great days. It's not a great week for Agilist Vinnie. And you know what? That's okay.
I really like that philosophy. We could go on forever and ever, I think. And perhaps we'll do this again before I shut the podcast down. If you woke up tomorrow morning, someone handed you your caffeinated beverage of choice. What is your caffeinated beverage of choice? Just to get it on the record?
It is a flat white.
Okay, that's
Australian, made in Australia.
How do you get that now that you're living in the UK? Have somebody freeze dry it and send it to you and rehydrate it?
No, it's just the way they make it. Like, as Australians, we are a huge coffee culture. We actually care about good coffee and how coffee is made. So I actually sent my husband on a barista course a few years ago. It proved so handy during lockdown.
Interesting. No, that is interesting. So with that flat white in hand and a magic wand, you have two wishes that you could use to change how agilists interact and learn from each other. What would those two things be and why?
Ooh, I didn't see that coming, Tom. My two agile wishes, I guess. Number one, my two agile wishes is how we turn up for ourselves first. I know at the start I talked about ourselves. If we're going to coach people, we're going to coach leaders, we're going to coach teams. Let's see how we turn up for ourselves. How do we interact with our fellow agilists? Are we actually living the ethics code that we actually wrote? Are we actually, if we're going to ask teams to be fun and play games and, get along, what are we doing about that? And my second agile wish is something that I've really been thinking for a while. I do feel that conferences attract a certain select amount of people. And it's also got to do with money. Tickets are expensive, flights, accommodation, travel. And I would really like to spread that joy. And if we could all like crowdfund and crowdsource to give experience to somebody and invest in our future generation, and so they can also experience this, because a lot of conferences again happen in predominantly on the Australia side, America, and the UK. There's a whole other world out there, and I'd like to spread that joy that I've held and I've felt by our community, because I know our community will always have our back in all times. If they can experience that, that would make me really, really happy. And even spoke to Bob Gallen about that as well recently.
Well, thank you. Vinnie, if people wanted to continue the conversation, how would they go about finding out about you and continuing the conversation?
LinkedIn would be actually the best. Okay. I do reply. I always reply. And if I don't reply, it means I've genuinely missed it, because I know LinkedIn's messaging box is not great. You're nodding there. Yes, it's not. Yeah. It's not very friendly. I can't flag things that I want to flag. So if I don't reply to you, just send me a wee message. I will get back to you.
Vinnie, at this point, I open up the platform for you to promote anything that you like. You've provided a lot of good information, good ideas for the listeners to think about. The platform's yours.
I don't really have much to promote, Tom. If I were to say something, I guess the Agile Alliance Ethics Initiative that both you and I are on, take a read, go to the website, the Agile Alliance Ethics website. There are a lot of scenarios there that if you ever find in need, or in case that you're confronted with a similar situation, hopefully the scenarios there will really help you. We've also begun translating that. The other thing I want to actually say are my banter series. No, I'm not selling anything at all. They are little wee clips from people that I meet at conferences. Like I said, I really like to give an insight to people that can't attend conferences, and so I do really short interviews with them if I attend their talks, and very quickly get them to say what the key takeaway is, if you can follow up from them. I also do LinkedIn Lives, so I guess maybe this is a bit of self-promotion here. If conferences would like me to do my LinkedIn Lives, I am known for the banter series that we started with Agile last year, both Orlando and Scotland. The banter series, reach out to me. We do a live series, which you can also watch. And I usually go around to show people what a conference atmosphere is. I interview people, I talk to people, I ask them why they're here, who they listen to, what their key takeaways are. And it's just spreading that atmosphere. And I've gotten really good feedback. One of my friends, Bevan in South Africa, he said he's actually having FOMO by not attending it. So it's just a little bit to spread joy. And, sometimes we see our friends and we just like to give them a wee wave.
Absolutely. Well, obviously, you're not only spreading joy, but you're spreading fear, too.
What kind of fear?
Well, you just said somebody's having FOMO, fear of missing out.
Oh, yes. You got me there, Tom.
Vinnie, thank you again for spending basically nearly an hour with the Software Process and SPaMCAST listeners.
Thank you, Tom. I have to say a big thank you to you for also helping me build my confidence for podcasting, because before you came into my life, I would be really, well, I guess, yeah. I always don't really think that I do particularly well at podcasts, even though I do interview people. But I think just having you there and just having you mentor me in this process has been totally helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. In the SPaMCAST 792, we begin year 18 with our interview with Gill. Gill and I talked about his new book, Deliver Better Results, How to Unlock Your Organization's Potential. The book explores what all successful improvements to value delivery have in common. This week, in our reread of Actionable Agile Metrics, Volume 2, we dive into Chapter 5, How Much Data. The question of how much data is required to determine what is happening in a system is a perennial bugaboo. Those predisposed to acting tend to think that less is more. Those with more reticence sometimes wait forever to make a decision. The question of how much data is needed is more than just a footnote in flow data. I recommend that you buy a copy of Actionable Agile Metrics Volume 2, Advanced Topics and Predictability, and read along. Links in the show notes. If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet?